King Salmon was a right prick. He ruled the reef like he owned the place, which technically he did. But still, a little humility goes a long way, you know, not King Salmon. He was all about power. His royal decrees were as predictable as they were pointless. All tuna must swim clockwise on Tuesdays, he'd bellow, or every oyster must surrender 1% of their pearls to the crown. The fish grumbled, but they obeyed, mostly because those who didn't ended up as lunch. King Salmon surrounded himself with yes-men, sycophantic bottom feeders who agreed with his every whim. "Your Majesty, you are a genius," they'd croon after every idiotic decree, a visionary amongst fish. Little did King Salmon know his reign of terror was about to come to a very sharp, very toothy end. The sharks had had enough. They were tired of King Salmon's posturing, his ridiculous rules, his general air of entitlement. So they did what any self-respecting group of cartilaginous fish would do. They staged a coup. It was a bloodbath. Well, not literally. More of a fin bath, really. The sharks, led by a steely-eyed Mako with a scar across his nose, ripped through the king's defences like they were made of wet tissue paper. The yes-men scattered. The king, caught completely off guard, barely had time to grab his lucky seaweed before he was fleeing for his life. Gone were the days of caviar and pronouncements. King Salmon found himself in a new town, a bustling coral metropolis where nobody cared that he used to be royalty. He was just another fish trying to make it in the big, wet world. He rented a tiny, run-down clamshell in the shadier part of the reef. The neighbours were loud, the rent was too high, and the seaweed was always damp. King Salmon spent most of his days sulking and reminiscing about the good old days. "Back in my kingdom," he'd begin, only to be cut off by his neighbour, a large grouper named Brenda, yelling at her kids to shut up. The king sighed. This was not how he envisioned his retirement. To make ends meet, King Salmon had to get a job. He landed a gig at Plankton Plus, a soul-crushing corporation that bottled plankton for the masses. His job? Quality control. He sat in a tiny cubicle, inspecting jars of plankton for imperfections. 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, he stared at tiny green dots. It was mind-numbing, it was tedious, it was strangely humbling. For the first time in his life, King Salmon understood what it was like to be a cog in the machine. He started to sympathise with the common fish, the ones he used to ignore, the ones he used to rule over. They weren't so different from him, after all. They just wanted a decent life, a fair shake, a break from the monotony. Something strange happened to King Salmon. He started to enjoy his simple life. He made friends with his co-workers, a motley crew of sardines and guppies who taught him the joys of office gossip and after-work kelp juice. He even started dating a sweet little angelfish named Coral who worked in accounting. He was still grumpy, mind you. Old habits die hard. But there was a twinkle in his eye now, a spark that hadn't been there before. He was content, in a way he never thought he could be. He had Coral, he had his friends, and he had a newfound appreciation for the little things in life, like not being chased by angry sharks.